Good morning, everybody. Sorry for being so late to starting this. I actually stayed at home this weekend and then I drove back this morning and I need to pick up some groceries and anyways, I'm here now. So I hope you got a chance to check out my why, which is what I posted just before this, so you can kind of get an idea of why I wanted to go into medicine and why kind of PA. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Aubrie, also a white coat chasing here on Instagram, and I am a first year PA student at Marshall B. Ketchum in Fullerton, so not too far. I went to SDSU and I graduated in 2019, and I was actually president of PASA my junior year. First and foremost, yes, my program is online. Before Thanksgiving break, we did go on campus maybe once or twice a week for anatomy lab and skills labs, but ever since Thanksgiving, they've kind of shut down the campus to minimize exposure due to possible travel. So right now we're doing online classes, and then my break actually starts this Friday, and then we start back up in January, and we won't go back on campus until around mid-January, after like 2 weeks after the end of our winter break, to allow time to quarantine for people to get back home places closer to campus. Like I said, just to minimize exposure, which I'm really glad my campus is being so safe about everything. But that being said, I'm going to show you a little bit about my day today. We are actually starting a new module. We just finished cardiology, which was notoriously rough, but it wasn't too bad. I passed, luckily, so that's good. I've passed all of my modules so far. I'll talk a little bit more about what passing is considered, but now we are on behavioral health. But alright, before I get into showing you what my module is like and how everything is set up, I'm going to put a couple pictures of just like my stats and my experiences for reference, and then I'm going to put a question sticker so you guys can start asking me questions. Alright, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have nothing going on interesting today in terms of I'm not going to campus, we're not doing anatomy labs. I might see if I have some videos or screenshots of our anatomy lab and kind of explain that. But today it's the first day of the module, so we have a Zoom call at 8:30 and then 9 o'clock, and then we just basically start off with lectures. Usually the first day is anatomy and physiology, but since we're on behavioral health and that's more psych, there is no anatomy or physio because that will be more our neuro module. So right now we're just starting lectures, and I'll show you the schedule that we get. So my school actually produces a schedule, kind of like a checkoff sheet for you to follow, and it lists all of the lectures, all of the Zooms, and all the assignments. So it's really that they provide us that because it keeps everything super organized. So yeah, I'll show you this right now, and then honestly I have to go watch. I think we have quite a few hours of lectures today. I'll show you. So it's just lectures and answering your guys' questions today for me. But this is a schedule, so you can see they have the date and the times, and it's color coordinated. So these are mandatory Zooms. These are office hours, so they are optional. And then we have a different class. So we actually are in a public class right now, and then also an evidence-based practice class that helps us kind of learn how to read journals and how to apply them clinically. And then we have a little kind of get-together Zoom events. And then we have our module exam on Friday at 8. We have our group exam, which is the same exact exam, except we take it in a group. And if you get over 95%, you get 3% back on your individual exam. That's at 9:45. And then afterwards, we have the exam review. You have to attend that if you did not pass the exam, which you get an email if you pass or not. But if you did pass, it's optional. So this is just 1 week. So it's a little bit of a shorter schedule. Good question. Honestly, I mostly use Quizlet and Pants Prep Pearls, but I just want a subscription to Smarty Pants, and it's kind of similar, and I use that for a bit of my cardio, preparing for that, and it is helpful. But honestly, Pants Prep Pearls, Quizlet. Answer any of the will this, insert the blank count. It really depends on the school, and it depends on your job description. So if you're hands-on with patients, most likely to count as PCE, but if you're more hands-off like a front office medical assistant, then that would most likely be HCE. It's a little bit harder to find them without having a certification, but you can always look up jobs on Indeed or Craigslist. Look up medical assistant, medical scribes you don't need schooling for, patient care technicians you usually don't need schooling, and then physical therapy aides usually you don't need it either. Part-time is kind of a vague statement. I worked part-time technically, but I worked 35 hours. So it just depends what part-time means. And also you just have to meet, school's minimum. So you'd have to have probably usually around 1,000, recommended over 2,000. So I'm on here, I just want to say that PCE isn't just like another checkoff box. This is where you learn so much, and the people in my class who are doing the best are the ones that have the most experience and really treated their experience as like a learning thing rather than just checking it off. This is a hard one to answer because schools do not require HCE. They require PCE, which is patient care experience, which is hands-on hours. Healthcare hours is experience within the healthcare setting, but not hands-on. So you do not need to get any HCE. Being said, it's not bad to have HCE. It's obviously really great. Scribing counts as HCE at some schools. I'm just saying make sure you get your PCE before you worry about getting any HCE because those are the important hours that schools actually require. Oh, no, you can't double dip hours. So if you worked 100 hours and you did like half PCE and half HCE, you would have to do 2 separate entries on CASPA and do 50 hours for each. So for me, I put it in as HCE, but some schools accepted it as PCE. On my CASPA application, I listed it under HCE, but when the schools look at your application, they kind of take into consideration what they count, and so most of my schools accepted it as patient care experience. I only think being online has helped this so much, so I make my own schedule. So they release all the pre-recorded lectures, and I decide when I want to watch them and what days I want to take off, so I can watch all of my lectures by like Thursday and then have a full free weekend. So that's been super helpful. So with COVID, really, though, nobody was really supposed to have a social life. To me, my social life is getting done with the day earlier and having my boyfriend come over for dinner and then going home on weekends to have dinner with my friend and my family. So COVID, no fun. I don't know how to answer this because I graduated in May of 2019 and applied in June. So I didn't get to add any experience, but I had a full year from when I applied to when I started school. But that's mostly because my school didn't start until August. So no. However, gap years are very common. I'm actually the youngest one in my program. There's a few of like classmates that are the same graduating year as me, but not that many. Majority are older and did take gap years, and that's very common and highly recommended. Got my CNA cert the summer after my freshman year, and then I worked a few summers after that, and I worked full-time. So by the time it ended up being around 960 hours total, but I only worked during summers, not during the school year. In all honesty, CASPA and most PA schools do not actually verify your hours. However, they could, so do not lie because they will flag your application. But yes, for all of your experiences, you have to put your supervisor's information in, or you should, so they can contact them in case. This year's was canceled. I'm hoping next year's still go on, but basically you're one-on-one, you're a counselor, and you're paired with an individual with muscular dystrophy, and they're kids that are like under, like their age is usually 7 to 18, and you just help them out through summer camp. It's really fun. But apply on their website, you actually have an interview, and then if you're accepted, it's a full week long. They do take your phone, so that's a downside, but you get to do so many fun things. They have like the pools and, you know, craft nights and dances. It's a really good time. I actually counted some of mine as PCE because I did a lot of ADLs, like CNA like duties with one of my campers, so I helped her with, you know, just certain things that, you know, CNA kind of does, so I counted that as patient care and then the rest as volunteering. I was a kines major. A lot of the bio classes at my school had to have like prerequisites that I just didn't take and weren't worth taking. So honestly, I kind of just did the prerequisites for kinesiology, but I did take extra classes at a CC. For me, my 2 roles were the president of PASA and then also my time as a peer mentor. They were both volunteering, but I put them under leadership because they were more obviously leadership roles, and they still kind of count as like just volunteering hours. I mean, like above all, obviously patient care experience is the most important, and then you're volunteering and shadowing. But it depends on the school. I know my school is really, really fond of leadership hours, and something I really like too, which is why I connect with my school. To assume that meant, did you work during undergrad other than CNA in the summer? And no, I did not. I volunteered at the fitness clinic quite a few hours a week, but I mostly focused on school because I just wanted to make sure that I had a strong GPA, and it worked out. I think the best thing to do to decide is to shadow and just ask a bunch of questions. So shadow both NPs and PAs and maybe even a few doctors just in case, and just ask them, you know, 1,000 questions about if they're happy that they became what they are. Records are kind of tricky because you do not upload the letter. You actually put in the person's email and it sends them a link where they upload a letter and a little questionnaire. So you kind of have to be smart about when you ask them, and it really depends on the person. If you want to ask them early, you can either have them write a letter at that point and then save it until you're ready to apply, or you can just say, hey, I would like you to write me one in the future, and then you can keep updating them with all of your experiences that you're getting, and then they'll write one later on. I applied in June, August. I submitted to schools at different times, but I had to have them in by June. So I started asking my letter writers in like January, February, just like letting them know, so they had like a lot of time in advance to prepare for that. Finished 2 lectures, and then I kind of had a long night last night. I went up to watch the meteor shower up in the mountains, so I took a little nap. I'm going to watch one more lecture, and then I'm probably going to get ahead on some of the assignments we have this week. I have an iPad to study, so when I watch lectures, I watch it on this side, and then I use this side and my Good Notes app to annotate. So if you'll see, I'll just like make a little bit of notes as the person is talking. I usually speed mine up. If you can see it, I have it at 1.6 because this speaker is a little bit slower than normal. So that helps me get through all of the lectures. But yeah, I just usually just write all my notes here, and then I'll go back and I'll usually make Quizlets from the notes that I take. Depends on the experience. For the PASA presidency, I just counted all of the meetings we had and then like the executive meetings. And then for the peer mentor, I would just count the times that I met with my mentees and had like the group meetings. We had them every Friday for HPAL. I don't think there's any best PCE. It's anything that is hands-on and something that you genuinely enjoy. You want to actually have a good time and feel like you're learning something, so pick something that you're actually interested in. But examples are medical assistant, medical scribe, CNA, EMT, and I'll list a few others. And I think you should start as soon as you're comfortable with doing so. I would recommend not starting right away when you're in undergrad. Get used to undergrad first and then work on PCE. I think you can technically submit your CASP application with only 2 letters of recon. You have to have 3, but some schools require that you have all of them done by the time you submit. So normally you would have to have at least 3 by the time that you hit that submit button. So I got a bit of a location switch. I'm in my living room so I can see the Christmas tree, but I got a question that was asking about loans and if I took out loans to cover cost of living too, and I did. So I took out grad plus FAFSA loans. So it pays for my tuition and for cost of living, and it like gives you a little bit of extra money, so you can pay for like food, gas, all the necessities. So I took out a good amount of loans, but honestly I saved up money before PA school, so I'm trying to that before I reach for my loans for like rent and whatnot. And then if I have any extra money left over, I'm going to try to like pay that towards my loans once I graduate.